name's Catherine Kraszewski and welcome to Catherine K Designs. Today we're going to talk about 4 easy steps to painting your own room. Now, painting is one of the easiest ways to add impact without spending a lot of money, especially if you do it yourself. Step 1 is getting all your tools together. A painting tray, a large piece of plastic or a drop cloth so you don't get paint in places you don't want to get paint in. Paint, obviously. Painter's tape, fine grained sandpaper, spackling compound, a spackle, something to open the paint can and take nails out of the wall, a roller with a brush end, paint stir sticks, paint brushes. I prefer the smaller ones because it gives me more control. And finally, a hammer so that you can close your paint can and maybe take any nails or things out of the wall that you have already. So this is everything you'll need to paint your room. Step 2 is prepping your walls. We're ready to prep the walls, and I've put tape up already because there's nothing I hate more than crooked paint lines. And when that's not done well, then you can really tell that people did it by themselves. So make sure you put it on really straight. And another tip I have is that the paint tends to bleed underneath the paint because it's not super sticky. Take a ruler or something flat or your fingernail and simply press down the painter's tape so that the paint bleeds less. That way you'll really get a pro finish. Second, if you have any holes from nails or screws or anything that you previously had in your wall, take some spackling compound and your little putty knife, and then you put some just on a little corner. You press it into the hole, and you push down and you kind of flatten it out. That's all you have to do to fill the small holes. For anything bigger, I don't recommend this stuff. Once it's dry, you sand it, and then right before you're ready to paint, just take a damp cloth, super lightly, not very wet, and just kind of wipe your walls down just to get the excess dust, any dirt. You'd be surprised what can accumulate on your walls over time. Ready to start painting. I'm just gonna open up this paint, but slowly going around. There we go. I've chosen a nice teal color. I'm gonna take one of our paint sticks, and mix it up because it doesn't take long for the colors to separate. So we're ready to do a technique called cutting in. It's basically where you do all of your edges before you fill in the rest of your paint job. It helps because the roller doesn't go all the way to the edge of the wall. And if you do this first and then you put the roller over top, you get a smoother finish rather than doing this after. Because with the paintbrush, you get paint streaks, and you want to avoid that as much as possible. That's why I like the smaller brushes, and I try and get as close as I can with the roller to the edge of the band that I'm painting. And one technique for cutting in is you dip your paint like before, third of the way in, take some of the excess off, and now you see it's not dripping, but I've got enough paint on there. Now you start away from the edge, and you move in. You just kind of move in towards that edge so you don't have a lot of excess paint like I've got there. So you want to just go from the edge, move in. That way you don't have a lot of paint. You don't put all of your paint on the tape and it bleeds in underneath. As you're going down, just kind of go up and down, up and down. And another thing you want to do so that you don't get these globs of paint on the edge that your roller won't be able to cover is you take your paintbrush when you have normal paint on it and just kind of go over this part, and that's called feathering. And the feathering will allow the roller to go over these parts without having the edge of the paintbrush edge and the roller edge. It will blend smoothly into one when you do it that way. want to have a light stroke when you're painting too. Don't press down too hard because then you'll really see the paint streaks. I want to just have a nice even finish, lightly push that paint in. And once I do the edging of all the walls, then I can finish filling it up with my roller. Just feather that in again. And that's it. And I just pour that paint in. And I take the excess out with my brush because you don't want to get it, you don't want to let it sit in there because that's what you close the lid with. So I put, see how this is the brush rest? It even says it there, huh? Brush rest. So now, one little tip I have is always close your paint can because I may or may not have one time dropped a can of paint on my parents' newly varnished wood floors. So the technique to get the paint on your roller, as you can see I used purple paint before, I like color, is you roll into the paint and you make sure it's completely covered. And as you're rolling down, it's gonna cover the roller evenly. You want to make sure you don't have spots like this where you see the rollers underneath. You keep going. First time you really want to make sure you go in. Now, if you put too much paint as you roll, see how it like heavily rolls back? That's way too much. You don't want it dripping off of there. So take off the excess, keep rolling it in. You want enough paint to put on the wall, but not excess so that it's just streaking all over the place. You'll see if you put it on the wall with too much paint, it'll start just sliding everywhere instead of rolling. Now we're ready to put it on the walls. As you can see, I've cut in the wall and gone around the sprinkler head there and my pole for my curtains and done all of the edges. All the way down. Now the paint's still wet, so I'm gonna quickly get that roller and make sure that I cover it smoothly. Alright guys, so now I've got my paint on my roller, I'm ready to paint the walls. And there are a couple of tips and tricks. First, don't go up and down from top to the bottom. If you have a big wall, up and down, top to bottom, next, top to bottom, that's gonna leave you with like a striped effect. If you want a blended, nice wall, you go in a W or V pattern, and then you kind of blend it in 3x3 sections. You go top, bottom, 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 next, bottom, 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 always making sure you're blending with what you've done before. So here we go. I'm gonna start. I'm always going back over the spots that I went, and one thing I have to make sure you guys don't go too fast near the ceiling. Especially me, I have cement walls. I don't want to hit the roller on the ceiling. So go slow when you're going near the ceiling because I've hit that roller before and it doesn't look pretty. Again, I'm going to go as close as I can to the wall with the roller so I go over the paint streaks from the edges. Now here, I didn't tape underneath because with a roller, it's pretty simple actually. If you just roll it over, like so, it does a nice edge for you, so you don't need to tape it. One last tip I have for you. If ever sometimes you see that you're rolling, you want to finish off the roll, you press down and you kind of lightly feather off. And that way you can have a nice finish instead of this kind of streaky finish that you'll see on the wall. It's hard to show you on camera, but you'll see it when it's on the wall. So you want to roll slowly as you're finishing, roll slowly up and then kind of lightly press off the wall and you get a nice finish. I've done my first coat, and it's going to take about 4 to 5 hours to dry. Sometimes if you use a really deep color like red, you want to wait 12 hours and you do 3 coats on a red wall. But this blue wall, I'll wait about 6 hours. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow for the second coat. So in between, you don't want your roller to dry out. Now, a trick that I use is I simply take a plastic bag and I put it in there. I roll it up so that there's no excess air, and I stick it in the fridge till I use it the next day. It simply prevents it from drying out, and trust me, these are a pain to clean. Your paintbrush though, definitely will clean it, and wipe the excess with a paper towel. That's it. Here we are at step 4. Yay! The final step! So the final step is simply taking off the tape and cleaning up. It is unprepping, if you may. So while the paint is still wet, it's good to take off the tape. But if you've waited until the paint is dry, there's another trick where you can take a little blade, an X-Acto or a box cutter if you have one, and I simply score the edge where you're going to take the tape off. Because if you don't do this, sometimes the paint will come off the wall with the tape. Like it just adheres to it here. So just score it, just really lightly, don't cut into the wall. And that'll be enough for the tape to separate from the paint. That one was easy. Oh, here, I'm just gonna do this one up here too. And you want to pull it off at an angle. And that white is just some silicone I have on my cement ceiling. Can't do much about that. There, it's coming off really nicely. Yes! That's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching Catherine K Designs. I hope you can see how adding just a little bit of color adds impact. I'd already done this wall, but even just putting a little bit of extra up on here, you can see it from my living room. Me and my boyfriend both love it. If you have any questions or comments or have any ideas for next videos, post it down below. I'll be happy to help and answer your questions. Thanks so much.